You're listening to episode 2 of Storycast 21. I'm Jane Secker. On July the 3rd, 2010, a double shooting in the northeast of England and the pursuit of the gunman that followed dominated international headlines for 7 days. This is the hunt for Raoul Moat.
I'm Sue Sim, the former Chief Constable of Northumbria. On the 3rd of July, I was in overall command of Northumbria Police. I was at home. I'd gone to bed as normal. My eldest daughter and husband were in bed. And then I received that fateful call.
It was in the early hours of the morning that police were called to this normally quiet area of Berkeley on the outskirts of Chesterley Street.
It was the Silver Commander who phoned me to say that there had been a shooting.
They arrived to find a scene of brutal violence. According to eyewitnesses...
I lived in Newcastle, so across the River Tyne, the next metropolitan district is Gateshead. And it was in that area that Moat shot Chris Brown and Sam Stobbart.
I heard the bang, bang. I thought it was windows at first, you know. And then I seen that, it was just terrible, really.
What exactly did you see there?
My understanding is that the former boyfriend of Sam Stobbart had, in a fit of jealousy, shot and murdered Chris Brown and seriously injured Sam Stobbart.
Police say the man they are looking for in connection with these shootings is Raoul Thomas Moat.
We believe the offender target...
I believed that what we had to do then was just to locate Raoul Moat. I did not in any way, shape or form expect it to turn into the incident that it did.
Hello there, this is the gunman from Berkeley last night. My name is Raoul Moat.
I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm a correspondent for Sky News.
A short time ago, well, Lisa Dowd is at the scene of the double shooting in Berkeley for us. And Lisa, what's the latest information that you have?
Well, police forensic teams have really been searching...
Raoul Moat was 37 and a former nightclub bouncer from Fenham in Newcastle. He'd been in a relationship with Samantha Stobbart, but they'd broken up when Moat was in jail for assault.
And he was recently released from Durham prison. In fact, released from Durham on Thursday. Well,
I remember thinking that Samantha Stobbart must have been absolutely terrified. Raoul Moat had been crouching under the living room window. As they came out of the house, he opened fire and shot her boyfriend, Chris Brown. Now, she ran back into the house, but you could see from the ground floor window into the lounge, he had shot through that window, hitting Samantha Stobbart as she tried to take cover.
She is currently in hospital in a pretty bad condition, but police have told us she will survive, and they are at pains really
He'd shot Brown and Stobbart.
Forward now. They're telling the public that they would
He
like
then put in a call to Northumbria Police to say that he was going to shoot police officers.
What I'm phoning about is to tell you exactly why I've done what I've done. The fact of the matter is, I'm not coming in alive. You have hassled with me for so many years. They come anywhere near me and I'll kill you.
Raoul Moat had promised not to stop until he was dead. And then in the early hours of Sunday, that investigation really escalated.
An officer was shot in the early hours of this morning. He was carrying out a static patrol on a roundabout. We understood he was shot.
At 1:45 in the morning, I got a phone call, which was the worst phone call of my professional life.
He was shot through the windscreen into the face and chest. He's now in hospital in a critical but stable condition. He has 10.5 years.
David Rathband was sitting, waiting and hoping to actually stop Raoul Moat. And he'd been sitting at a roundabout on the A1-A69 junction.
I looked to my left through the front passenger side of my police car, and I saw Moat running from the A1. He lifted the gun, pushed it forward, and then discharged the weapon through my window. I felt all the pain, and it was the shotgun cartridge going through my eye socket between my two eyes.
Raoul Moat had gone up to him and had callously shot him in the head, which resulted in David being blinded.
We are absolutely committed to finding the man who did this and are using every resource available to bring this to a conclusion as quickly as possible.
At that point, nobody really knew what this man was going to do next. We had a gunman on the run.
The man we are looking for is Raoul Thomas Moat.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Sunrise on Monday the 5th of July. Our top story, gunman on the run.
For the whole of Monday the 5th of July into the Tuesday, my focus was that crime scene at Birtley.
We're live at the scene of one of the shootings as police warn Moat's friends.
I remember police putting out some detail on a black Lexus car that they thought Moat was using.
We're live from Rothbury in Northumberland, where Britain's most wanted.
Now, police found this black Lexus at Rothbury and immediately set up this huge exclusion zone around the town. And I got straight into the car and started heading north.
Detectives leading the hunt for Raoul Moat have warned that the suspected killer has made threats against the public now, contradicting their earlier theory that he only posed a danger to police. Here, this massive
Well, my biggest fears, of course, were not being able to bring Raoul Moat to justice. And my first objective was to make sure that he was detained and brought to justice before a court for his crimes. And that was the one thing that I wanted, as well as keeping the community and the police officers safe. We knew that he had gone to ground in Rothbury. What I was concerned about was the fact that we were unable to locate him. Rothbury is in Northumberland, and where Moat was is one of the most densely wooded and least populated parts of Northumberland.
I think at that point it felt like the police were assembling a small army, if you like, in the most unlikely of places. There were reinforcements coming in from all over the country. 250 of them were armed, and they'd set up this 2-mile exclusion zone with roadblocks everywhere. You couldn't get in or out of that town without your car being searched. I remember my mum leaving me a voicemail telling me to be careful. We were reporting at times from some quite remote locations, and we had no idea where Moat was. Was he watching us? And at one point, there was some discussion from our team in London as to whether we needed flak jackets, protective jackets, sending up to us.
We're right to say, aren't we, I think that some more military equipment has been brought to bear on this manhunt as well.
I'd be doing a live report at a remote farm one minute, and I'd look over my shoulder and I'd spot the sun glinting off one of the helmets of the firearms officers who would be in formation, kind of stalking down the side of a hillside in full protective gear. In the skies, there was this kind of deafening roar of jets.
Around dusk, it was clear that there were tornado jets, well, RAF jets flying quite slowly over Rothbury. We understand that they were being used to photograph or video the terrain to try and spot any sign of where he had been.
Here, this massive search operation is now well into its 6th day. So far, though, no sight or sign of the fugitive. Live now to Sky's Mike.
I think one of the things that did cause me some angst was that some of my male Chief Constable colleagues had decided that I didn't have the experience because I was only a temporary Chief Constable. I had the then Home Secretary, Theresa May, called me when David Rathband had been shot, and her advisors phoned me on a daily basis.
Just to remind you again, if you've just switched on, Raoul Moat, the man that Northumbria Police, with the help of at least 11 other police forces, have been pursuing, has been found. He has been surrounded by armed police, and there is, I'll step out of the shot.
It was around 7 o'clock at night, and I remember seeing journalists and some of the locals rushing towards the riverbank area in the town.
One of the community officers had gone down to the riverbank and had actually seen Raoul Moat and had called the firearms in to surround him and to start negotiating with him. I wasn't aware of that at that time. I had left Rothbury just after 6 o'clock. And as we got down to the A1, the Assistant Chief Constable called me and said, "Sue, we've got him surrounded on the riverbank."
And there is a negotiation going on between the two parties. Raoul Moat on one side, carrying his a weapon to his throat, and the police on the other side.
This was the moment everything had been building towards. Some officers were taking cover behind armoured vehicles. There were snipers with rifles. Some of them were literally standing in the river, using anywhere to try and get a sight of Moat.
It's 7 days since Moat allegedly shot and wounded his former girlfriend Samantha Stobbart and killed her new partner, Chris Bragg.
They thought Raoul Moat was going to kill again, and they were throwing everything at it to try and stop him.
Negotiations between police and Moat are continuing. Moat has been given food and water and is eating. And
so I headed straight into the headquarters, into the Gold Command, and I stayed there. My sole objective was to capture Raoul Moat and to put him before a court.
It has now been confirmed that the footballer Paul Gascoigne has arrived, claiming to be a friend of Raoul Moat's and bringing with him.
There was this kind of jaw-dropping moment. Paul Gascoigne, Gazza, one of Britain's best-known footballers, turned up at the cordon, wanting to talk to Moat, wanting to help the situation, but the police would not entertain the idea.
A friendly face, if you like, for this man, Raoul Moat. Paul Gascoigne, the footballer, apparently has...
As the night wore on, no one really knew how long this standoff was going to last, so I made my way back to one of the local hotels that we'd been put up in.
What's happening, Kay, is that police are talking to Raoul Moat, covering him.
I turned on the television and there's my colleague James Matthews reporting from the scene at the cordon.
What you're looking at are armed officers.
And you can see the silhouettes of the armed officers moving around with the green and grainy shots filmed from our night vision camera. Then there's what sounds like a shot.
Bear with me a second, James Matthews with us. James, the latest?
Yeah, Kay, I'm going to hold the microphone in the air. We've just heard a shot.
I was sat in the Gold Command room, and all of a sudden the call came out, shots fired. And for a split second you think, who shot? Who shot who? And it became clear very, very quickly that Raoul Moat had shot himself. And the ambulance was down there. They took him to the hospital where he was declared dead.
Raoul Moat had shot himself at 12 minutes past 1 in the morning on July the 10th. A post-mortem examination carried out the day after found that he died from a shot from his sawn-off shotgun. It was certainly one of the most troubling stories I've covered in my career. I've reported on a lot of murders, a lot of shootings, but with this case it was so hard to predict where it was going to go next, and in that scenario it meant who might be killed next.
I live with the outcome. I live with the fact we couldn't bring him to justice for the families of the people that he'd hurt. Would like to give, as I did at the time, my condolences to the family of Chris Brown, to Kath Rathband and the children of David Rathband for his terrible death following this incident, and to Sam Stobbart for the injuries that she had. They were also the innocent victims of this man.
Sadly, PC David Rathband never recovered from his injuries. He died by suicide in February 2012. For more on this documentary, go to www.skynews.com/Storycast21. The Hunt for Raoul Moat was written and produced by Robert Mulhern. Recordings, research and production from Tom Gillespie. Next time...
I think I was like a boxer, and it doesn't know whether I will be knocked out or he will win by points.
We're in Vienna as a Kenyan athlete attempts the impossible.
Four-time London Marathon winner Eliud Kipchoge hoping to become the first person in history to run a marathon in under 2 hours.